Does it work on the QR code? I did try. It works. It works. It works. Okay. You mean your QR code? But on the same. Put you half the day.
Hello.
Okay. 30 minutes maybe. You should try it.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Right, thanks for coming to the Ansible Meetup for September. So as you can see over here, this is the QR code for the Telegram group that we have. Feel free to join. We will try to answer questions whenever we can, depending on what kind of questions, of course, right? Okay. Anyway, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Vinod. Vinod is going to talk about event-driven Ansible, right, as well as network automation. Right. So over to you, Vinod.
Hey, thanks, Anthony. Hey, before I start, just want to understand how many of you are from network or like do network automation? Okay, 1, 2, 3. I see 3. Okay, 3. Okay. So, and the next question I have is, how many of you have heard about event-driven Ansible? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, few. Okay. That's not count. That addition does not count. Okay. So what I'll do today is, if you want to join the Wi-Fi, here's the QR code. You guys want? Nice. So let me see.
Thank you, Amy. The Wi-Fi.
I don't know.
So if you guys need a guest Wi-Fi, his phone, scan it, or you can type in the password.
Take your photo and take photo and keep it.
He's going to say the same. 3 hours.
Yeah, that's why he's going to change the slide.
Oh, it's going to change. Oh, yeah, he's going to change the slide.
I think I like for people to take this.
It's going to the Telegram group.
Oh, this one is going to the Telegram group? No.
Sorry, I think I.
No, this is a trick, okay? If you haven't joined the Telegram group, this is the main kind of make.
I'm sorry. Anyone who scanned this, please leave that group. Sorry.
It's a different Telegram group.
I copied the wrong one. Sorry, you can still use this. Yeah, but this QR code, no.
Okay, we'll just remove. What is that? Your personal chat group?
What group is it?
No, this is to the organizer group.
That's nice. Use the stacks.
You get neighbors.
Okay.
Sorry. Anyone
But
who
still,
joined
I
this?
think the password works, so you can actually still use it.
Okay, no worries.
Okay.
We'll just remove you.
Move on. So what I'm going to do today is I'll talk about event-driven Ansible, and then I'll kind of drill down into the network automation and how EDA can be used on network automation. Even though I'm going to talk more on the network use cases, but some of these concepts and things can be used in other automations as well. So it's not that, okay, it's like fully network related, but even though I'm showing actually network related use cases, but can be used in other automations as well. So let's go into the event-driven automation. So what is event-driven automation, right? So it's all about taking some sort of actually intelligence and connecting with an automation, like say observability, right? So we want to take something actually happening in your environment, take it and kind of act upon it without human manual intervention. So the key part here is that we want to kind of take it from the event to an action without any manual intervention. So that's event-driven automation. And this is what actually we want to achieve using event-driven Ansible. Now, if you look at the EDA itself, like there are 3 kind of, I would say, steps which happens. The first step is observe. So first is basically observing anything happening in your environment. This is basically observability. So this is your existing observability tools, which actually observe what's happening in your environment. once actually we get that event, then we kind of next phase is to kind of look at, okay, whether this particular event needs to be acted upon, right? There might be cases that, okay, this is a known problem or this is a known event, you want to take some action upon it. So the evaluation portion comes in the next. Now, once I evaluate, I know, okay, I need to take some action upon it. Then the third portion, act, comes in where you go and perform some action, right? It can be anything. It can be like creating an incident, creating a, or like doing the self-remediation as well. Now, as you all know, Ansible automation platform or Ansible itself has a lot of these modules which can connect to all these different systems. Your act portion, which you are well familiar with today, like doing automation across all your other IT systems, is there. Now, what is new then? The new part is these two parts, right? How am I going to kind of stitch from your observe portion and evaluate and then stitch my action? So this is actually what is new in EDA. Now, a different view of the same, but this will show you how actually we stitch it. And the first portion is again my event sources. So there are a lot of different event sources, right? So be it actually coming from Kafka, Dynatrace, Prometheus, and a lot of other kind of systems you see over here, right? There's just a sample again. Now, what we do is we have in the EDA, we have something called rulebook. So in the rulebook, what we do is first we want to kind of listen for an event. So we have something called event source plugin. I'll be talking about that later. So we will be listening for event from your observability, the event source, right? So being it Kafka or webhook or whatever, so we'll be listening on. When a particular event comes in, message comes in, then we have a rule engine which is going to look up that and then look at your rule which you have defined in your rule book and sees whether it actually matches. If it matches, then you're going to take an action. So here in my case, I'm just kind of invoking a job template in my automation controller. It can be like running a playbook as well. Okay? So and then that particular action comes in. So the act portion is pretty familiar to you. So you can do a lot of things with that action.
But let's say example for Kafka, right?
Yes.
Let's say we're expecting a lot of messenger streams every hour. So sometimes we get Kafka issue. Then maybe can we listen say, hey, maybe if certain time, I mean, there's no message coming or below certain threshold, do something.
Okay, so you're saying the other way. So I don't get an event for a specific amount of time. I want to kind of take actions.
Yeah.
It's an interesting use case. Not hard about it.
Because most of that, 99.9%, you're always expecting a lot of message through the Kafka. But you want to use this EDA, right, to trigger when they don't receive.
Okay, so probably I need to think through on it, like how this can be set up. But just wanted to highlight this, right? When we talk about this event sources, just wanted to be clear. We are not talking about getting the alerts, direct alerts directly from your sources. So the idea here is to kind of get the like actionable events or the curated events, right? This is event, not the alerts which we are getting it. So it's not like I get like all this bombarded with all my SNMP alarms or all the things like observability into the system. That's not the vision. What we are expecting is that, okay, this is probably might be your observability tool, which is already doing it for you. We get actually events from that, for example. So that's the one. How to do based on an event to check on it might be a way, but we need to see. I have to think through on it, and I'll get back to you.
Why don't we make some kind of applications that listen to the topic, and if it's not receiving any messages, it will send an event that can maybe also observe.
Yeah, that's a possibility. We can actually, can be that. Okay. So let's go into and understand some of the components inside of our EDA. So let me start with this event source plugin. So I was telling, right? So we want to collect that event from your data source. So this is actually an event source plugin. So you can think of it from an analogy perspective. Ansible models, Ansible models, right? You've been using it. So event source plugins is like another type of basically a module. So, and given back, what actually its job is to kind of get events from a specific data source. Then we have Ansible Rulebooks. So Rulebooks is the place where you write, okay, where are you getting the events from, and what actually rules you are going to kind of define, and what actions you need to take when that specific condition occurs. These are the rulebooks. So analogy over here for standard Ansible is an Ansible playbook. Ansible playbook actually runs your playbooks, tasks, and everything. rulebook is similar in an EDA world. Now, few more things. So Ansible Rulebook CLI. So this is actually the community one. So this is similar to Ansible Playbook CLI, right? So typically we run playbooks using Ansible Playbook. Similarly, and you can run a rulebook using Ansible Rulebook CLI. Okay. Now there are other two portions which I mentioned over here. So this is like an EDA controller and decision environments. So this is actually equivalent to Ansible, like Ansible Automation Platform, Ansible Automation Controller, and as well as the execution environments, like where we kind of actually run the playbook or the rulebook in this scenario. Okay. Now let's probably get into some details about the rulebook itself. So rulebooks are nothing but like YAML files. So you can actually see it's like here is a sample of it. So you can see that we have a name and then we have a host and then we have a source and then rules over here. It's very simple. It's similar kind of to your playbook, but it's written actually as like a rule, right? Now, if you see here, Ansible.eda.alert manager, which is actually under the source, right? This is similar to kind of your FKCN of your module. So this is similar to it, but it's just that it is an event source plugin. So here, this is an basically alert manager event source plugin. So source plugin. So there are a lot of actually event source plugins which are available today. Like there are some collections which have CrowdStrike, Dynatrace, IBM, like Turbonomic, Instana, and everything. And there are more coming up, right? So there are a lot more actually coming up. So within the Ansible EDA collection, also we have some generic collections which are available, like for example, to do Kafka or like to do webbook and other like say service buses we can actually take, right? So this is like generic collector we can actually use event source plugin which we can use. Of course, we are also getting some community content. We are also getting some partners actually coming up with the event source plugins as well. And of course, you guys can also create your own plugins, event source plugins. So it's very simple. There are like actually YouTube videos available for you to kind of, if you want to kind of create it, you can actually create it as well and like share it in the community. Okay, so let's get into the rulebook. So event source plugin. So first thing, what's the rulebook? So analogy is a playbook, right? Similar to playbook, I have actually a rulebook. In a playbook, I can have one or more plays, right? Here I can have, in a rulebook, I can have one or more rule set. We call it rule set, okay? So what does a rule set contain? So rule set is nothing but like if you see, let me go over here to explain. So I have same thing, I have a unique name for my rule set. This is my play, right? It's similar to play. I have a name, I have host, I have execution strategy, then I have a source, then I have rules. So I can have many rules actually which are over here. So this is a rule set. And a rule book can contain more than one or more rule sets. Okay. So then the rule set, in the rule set actually I was talking about, rule set can have rules. So we can actually have one or more rules. Okay, so basically think of it as the tasks. So instead of task, you can actually have like what I have different conditions and I have an action, different actions. I can have many things like that. Okay, so this is similar to tasks. So simple, as you saw, it's pretty similar to Ansible Playbook, but it's different actually kind of a purpose. Okay, and we define it actually, define different stuff inside it. Now I want to kind of highlight over here. So as you see over here in the rules I'm defining, there are two things part to it. One is the condition. So condition is where I define what events I'm kind of interested in, right? Then if that particular condition sets true, then I need to perform actions. So like actions can be one action or multiple actions. What type of actions you can do? So you can run a playbook, you can run a template, basically running a job template in the AAP controller, run modules, setback, post event, there are many. And if I'll show you the, if I go to the documentation, you will find all the different actually actions you can actually take. So it's a lot of things which are defined here. So it's my actions. So it defines what these different action does, like what actually configurations it can take and everything. So you can see this and playbook and everything. So you can actually go and read through it as well. Okay. Now let's see, okay, understand what EDA is and what rulebook is. Now what are the use cases can be used? EDA use cases is kind of can be across different domains. like be it networking or niche, cloud or infrastructure related, security related application. There can be many types of use cases where EDA can be used. But today I'm going to focus on the network. Okay, so I'm going to kind of talk more about the networking, but the kind of approach applies to this as well. So network automation. So as you know, Ansible has been used for network automation for a long time, right? So we've been kind of doing automation across simple like configuration backup till kind of doing automated NetOps and everything, right? So we can actually do it. Now, what we are trying to do is we are going to extend this and adding additional use cases to this with EDA. So here are some example use cases. Okay, first, okay, I'm talking about device health, right? So if I get actually collect information about metrics or realization, I can actually take actions. Like for example, if I find like say interface CRC errors, then if it's beyond a specific threshold, I want to take an action. I want to notify, I want to take an action. CPU utilizations or like port kind of status actually being down or like BGP status. There are a lot of other things which you can actually use. This is a more on device health. Infrastructure awareness. So this is about like changes happening on your infrastructure and then you are kind of take action based on that, right? Here we're just talking about, okay, if there is a like kind of a neighbor change happening, then you want to take some action on it. Remediation. So this is actually another thing which can be used, right? So basically here we are saying, okay, if there is a change which is happening on my network, and based on that, I want to see if that's because of some configuration changes. And if it is, then I want to go and rectify. Like say probably somebody did something and then they removed some configuration. Because of that, something happened. So we can actually talk about this. I'll show some demos of this as well later. Yeah. Is there a question? Okay. So of course, ticketing and enrichments is the common thing.
Sorry. So you're saying the use case about somebody changed something. What are you trying to?
Okay, I'll give you an example of it. So somebody kind of in a network, so in a BGP network, so somebody was actually making some configuration changes. Some configuration changes were made, which actually triggered something, and a BGP state was down, link was down. Now, what we are listening is we are listening for the link state down. If I find a link state down, okay, I take it and I say, okay, there's a link state down. It might be because of the configuration change, it might not be. Okay. First thing I'm going to do is, as part of my first step of my troubleshooting, the system is going to kind of check the golden configuration, whether the configuration which is supposed to be there in all the network devices is there or not. If it is there, it's fine. If it is not there, it can actually apply it.
When you say the golden configuration, means all my config of the switches and routers.
BGP here in this scenario, in the example of BGP configuration.
Okay.
So all my boxes actually have BGP standard BGP configuration set, right? So I will go and check whether the standard BGP configuration is set on all my devices. If it finds that one of the devices, actually in the demo, what we do is we simulate this. We go and remove some configuration, basically in one of the router, basically switch, and then this triggers it. Now, if it finds it, then it can actually either report saying that there's a configuration change which is causing this issue, or it can go and say, okay, apply the right configuration as well. Just giving an example. Okay, this, of course, this actually can be applied for other scenarios, but here actually, because I'm talking about network, I'm just taking a BGP state scenario. Ticketing and instruments, of course, this can be similar things. In this case, if state is down, like if I find something happening, I don't want to take any action in the sense remediation or anything. I just want to kind of get more information and give it to my engineer. And that engineer actually, when they come, they can see it and then they can actually take action upon it. Okay, those kind of things. ChatOps is another thing which people kind of do it, like say they can actually run or set an automation using chat, basically ChatOps, right? So it can be used for that as well. So I'll be kind of showing some of these examples today. Okay, so let's look into the demo, right? So probably more interesting stuff. So again, because it's going to be more related to the network, so this is my current actually setup here. So you can think of it like I have my network. So this is the data events I'm getting is actually streaming telemetry. How many of you know about telemetry, network telemetry?
Only telemetry.
Huh?
Only telemetry, not network telemetry.
Okay, so network telemetry is similar. Telemetry, basically what happens is traditionally, okay, just quick view of it. Traditionally, how people kind of used to monitor network is using SNMP polling. SNMP poll, like all these data. It's very, very, I say like kind of too cumbersome because you are kind of polling, which actually increases a lot of overhead and so on and so forth, right? Now, telemetry is a different mechanisms, it's a newer mechanisms wherein we are not polling, we are actually getting data from the device. So I would say that, okay, the device, I'm interested in knowing CPU utilization. This is my sensor, okay? Then I can actually get only that data back into my system. So this is something called telemetry, so network telemetry. So a lot of all the network vendors are actually going into that actually, where they are actually supporting telemetry. Okay, that's a very, very quick overview of telemetry. So we are
still use SMMP this case.
So this is telemetry.
Not
This-
SMMP.
No SMMP. Yeah, this is all telemetry. So we get actually telemetry. So here, what we are doing is we are using telegraphs. It's an open source kind of a project which can actually collect data from telemetry data, and then it's going to push the data into a Kafka. So we will actually kind of listen to the Kafka and we will fetch it from the Kafka source. So this is what actually there in our setup. And then of course, once I get this, and then I am going to kind of interface with all the different systems underneath, and actually make some changes.
So actually, there's no event source from the telegraph to the.
No, we are
we
taking from the
have-
Kafka as a generator.
yeah,
So easier actually, we
Yeah.
can actually take it because
Okay.
Telegraph has an the outbound plugin for Kafka. So we just take it, push it, and then we take it from there. So this is actually a thing, but again, this is just for my lab setup. Of course, it can be different setup as well. Okay. For example, like instead of actually Telegraph and Kafka, typically people use different systems. Like for example, Arista, right? Arista has their own management solution called Cloud Vision. So the Cloud Vision, so basically the changes would be like this. I see. I have the change would be that instead of Telegraph, all the events are actually going to Cloud Vision, and from Cloud Vision, I can take it. So depending upon the type of system, either it can be Kafka, it can be webhook. So in this case, actually, the Arista one, it's actually making it a webhook actually for us. Okay, so this is my setup, and of course, I also have, which I will have some
Yeah.
demos.
How about the ChatOps? What do you want?
So I'm using, I'll show you something on Mattermost, and I have one demo I can show you better. So ChatOps, there are two scenarios we use chats. One for the notification, second actually to take action based on some chat actually commands. Okay, two-way. So notify, as well as actually say, for example, I want to take a backup of a particular device. So backup that particular device, then actually triggers an action and then it can do it. So this is like ChatOps kind of a thing. And this is mostly used a lot into, like say, even in a lot of the different assurance solutions, right? You have it, like say, there's a ticket and then you want to work on it. Say, for example, I got a ticket and I'm looking at it and I want to kind of say, oh, okay, I want to get like, say, interface details. So what happens typically is you go out and then you go and actually look at your, go into log into your router or switch and then go and look at it. Instead, actually, in these systems actually have a ChatOps, you can actually chat. The system can actually fetch the information. So just taking an example. So these are like what we call ChatOps. Okay, so let's look at first use case. So first thing is actually I'm going to talk about the very basic stuff. Just taking some information, like say taking an event and providing kind of some troubleshooting help or like kind of to notify, only specifically notify things. So here in this scenario, the first one is I'm going to do a, like say if CPU kind of usage is higher, then I can actually, I want to take an action, or like say interface CRs or things like that I was talking about. Let's quickly look at it. Okay, so here's my, if you look at it, so this is my full book. So here I'm listening for my Kafka, and my rules are like I can actually.
You know, is it live?
It's video.
Sorry?
Is it live?
No, this is video. So this, okay, I'll tell you why. This is a video. Why? So this is actually done on the real network actually devices from Cisco. So we did actually showcase this on the Cisco Live in the US. So this is not actually simulated environment. This is a real environment we showcased it. So of course we can't actually have their entire network set up. So we kind of recorded it and we are showcasing it. It was like. This was live actually. When they showed actually in the Cisco Live was actually entire thing was live.
Okay.
Okay, so here's my, this is my playbook. This is my act portion. So here I'm just kind of taking information and just pushing it into my WebEx actually chat. So just notify, okay? If something happens, and then I need to notify. So what does my rule book look like? So this is my rule book. So simple rule book. So if you can see this, right? I have my one rule set in my rule book. So I'm saying source is like Kafka. I'm listening to this particular topic, CPU average topic. And then when it looks at my rules, actually, if you look at condition is even fields average is greater than 10. So like in simulated environment, we're just checking for greater than 10%. And then I'm also throttling it. So here, actually, I'm saying that, of course, because telemetry data is going to be like coming multiple events, right? I want to kind of throttle it, saying that once per 5 minutes is what I'm going to kind of take action upon. And then what action I'm going to take, I'm just going to like say run a job template. Here, I'm just going to trigger a notification into my VNS. Okay. So quickly, so if you look at it, okay, again, small fonts. Sorry for that because it was recorded. So here's my rulebook. I'm just running my rulebook here. And here you can see my telemetry event coming in. So it's like you can see CPU average. It should be around 16.299. This is what actually it is. You can see this getting printed. And then that's my WebEx. So on the left, you could see where it just pushed a message. So actual pushing the message is done by the job template. So here is my job template, which got triggered by the EDA. And here is my message I got. And then this message, we can take some information and post it to the WebEx. So here in this example is WebEx. It can be Slack. It can be other platforms, chat platforms as well. Okay, so move on to the next use case. I'm going to talk about, okay, similar thing. I'm going to talk about BGP state change alert, right? So here is not actually about the device, but I'm going to do basically looking at the BGP states. So here's my, this is Arista box, okay, not Cisco. This is a different actually environment app. So here I'm just going to look at for a specific. Okay, so I'm just quickly showing that telegraph here. So this is my telegraph. So if you look at it, this is my subscription. So okay, wait a minute. Let me stop. I can quickly show you this. So telegraph is basically you're looking for the sensors. So here's my sensors. So basically telemetry works on sensors, like what information I want. So here I'm looking for the Ethernet actually sensor. I also looking for my BGP state change, neighbor change actually sensor. Okay, here I'm just going to simulate it. So I'm going to kind of shut down one of the interface. So basically my BGP will go down. So I'm going to simulate it. Again, what I'm showing here is the network scenario, but this can be applied for other scenarios in your infrastructure as well. Okay, any state change is what actually can occur. So here's my rulebook. So similar source, I'm taking from Kafka. Here my topic is network. Okay, I have two rules here. Okay, one, I'm checking, okay, if my basically port is down, okay, and I'm going to run this playbook. So decide port state. So I'm just going to kind of make it up, right? If you make it down, it's a critical port. I'm just going to bring it up, for example. Then I have another kind of rules here saying BGP event. So if I see my session status idle, that means something went wrong. Then I'm going to kind of run a BGP status in a particular playbook. Okay, I'm just going to run. So here, in this case, I'm not doing it on the WebEx. I'm going to post it on Mattermost. This is another chat platform. It's open source. Okay, so we use it. So here is my kind of a chart, which I'll get an information when the particular BGP state goes down. So I'm going to simulate this. So I'm running my rulebook. Okay. Yeah. Shut down. So as you can see, that particular event came in. It's sending a notification. So if I go to my chart, actually it would have received the alert over here. Okay, this might be simple. I just got an alert and you're just pushing it. The benefit here is that I can take any action. So in this case, if there's a BGP alert, I want to collect some information and post it, right? So the user, when they see it, they have additional information. So my next kind of demo showcase that. So here I'm just going to do troubleshooting. Okay, so troubleshooting, in this case, I'm just going to collect some information. So the same thing I'm doing. So as you can see here, okay, one thing, yeah, so I'm doing troubleshooting. and I'm telling something called post event. So what it means is that when it completes the troubleshooting, it's going to send a message to its own, right? It says that, okay, fine, I've completed it. Now I check my other rule. Okay, when the status is done, that means troubleshooting is done, then I'm going to call the status. It's going to post. So it's basically calling itself. So that's post events. So let's see it running. In just short time, I'm going to skip through some of the videos. So here is what I'm just collecting. So I'm collecting some, in this case, I'm just collecting BGP summary, and I'm just collecting some, running some ping commands, and I'm getting the results. This can be anything. Let's go make it down. Let's see. Okay, so here you see here. Now I have got more information here. So just not the information I got like this down, but I'm also getting some like additional troubleshooting information. So this is my BGP summary information I got, actually I collected. And then it will also give you the ping one. Okay, so these are some additional information. These are enrichment information you can add. And here I'm just using chat as a mechanism to notify. It can be just updating in your trouble ticket, service ticket as well. Okay. Okay, so we move on. So other use case I want to talk about is NetOps. So this is about like similar, like people are familiar with GitOps, right? Same thing, we are trying to do it on the network level. So the network configurations are actually kept as source of truth into the Git, and then we kind of apply it into the network. Okay, this is basically NetOps. So let me show the use case. So here again, what I'm trying to do is, okay, port is down. I'm doing it beside port state. I'm also going to do is if the port is coming up. If the port is coming up, I'm just doing a node port config. So the use case is actually here. What I'm trying to show you is my simple. So what we are saying is, whenever you make a port up, then it is going to kind of say that, okay, what is the current what is the actual configuration it's supposed to have? Then it pulls it from the Git and then it applies it. So I'm just going to do, so this is my actually see, it's taking the information from my Git repository. It takes this information and then it applies that information basically. So this is my Git repository. So if I look at my, so here for the example, it's much simpler. So I'm just kind of adding a VLAN on that particular switch port. That's it. Okay, let's see how it's in action. So right now this doesn't have anything, right? The VLAN is not configured. So in this case, I'm just going to shard. Basically, the first time down comes up, it's going to make it up, the first rule. And then the second rule gets kicked on. And then the second rule is going to kind of go and fetch the information from the Git, and it's going to apply. Now, if I look at it at the end in my switch. Okay. Yeah. It applies. So this shows you the approach of how it can be used. So you're actually kind of storing your source of truth in the Git, and it's trying to make sure that that source of truth is applied in your network. It's in desired state or not. So this can be used in other scenarios. I think we were discussing about the config drifts in this scenario that BGP state changed, but I'm just going to check whether the BGP state configuration is set properly or not. Okay, so my rulebook is very simple. I'm just looking for my BGP state change. And this is my actually playbook. So this is actually going to call, so get my information. This is my Git configuration. So BGP configuration, it's going to kind of apply. Sorry for the video runs very fast. So we're doing it, and then we are actually configuring, checking the BGP configuration. So here is my BGP standard configuration. It's supposed to be there, whether it is there or not. Okay. So here's my Cisco box. So everything is working fine so far. Then I'm just going to shut down an interface. Then you can see there will be a message. Okay, so basically if somebody shut down, then the BGP state will go down. So this is my message coming in from my telemetry, which states that neighbor is down. Then actually we go and take an action. So this action, because it actually was a configuration change, the system is going to remediate it. Okay, the system is going to say, okay, apply the right configuration. Obviously, applying the right configuration makes the system back up properly. Okay, so this is actually another set of use cases. This is kind of where you want to kind of use NetOps and kind of tie it with EDA based on some changes. You want to make sure that your system, your in the network actually configurations are proper or not. Okay, the next one I'm going to talk about is ChatOps. Okay, what I'm trying to do again, I'm just running through some of these use cases because there are a lot of use cases you can do with EDA, right? I'm just kind of giving you the glimpse of all the different types of use cases. But if you're kind of in your environment, if you're having specific kind of requirement where you are kind of looking to use EDA, we can have detailed discussion and see how it can be used as well. So ChatOps is the other one. So as I mentioned, ChatOps, like say, I can do notification as you saw. I can actually notify with the information I've collected. The one I'm going to show here is about taking commands from the chat and taking action. Okay, so here I'm going to do just a backup configuration. So somebody wants to kind of just run a configuration. So here in my, so for that to work, basically what we use the webhook. So here in my Mattermost, this is my chat application. So the chat application is going to kind of do outgoing webhook. So it's going to make a call whenever there's a specific kind of keyword, you type it in the chat. Okay, it's going to call our EDA and the EDA is going to take action on it based on what actually text or what you have typed. So here I'm just showing the basically setting up my webhook outgoing. So here I'm just looking for trigger as backup. So you can be anything. So here I'm just kind of looking for backup as my keyword. So when it finds it, then it's going to make a call to our EDA, which is basically Ansible Rulebook, which is 5005. Okay, let's see it in action. Okay, so here is my rulebook. So I have like a, this is my rulebook. If you look at it, so I have two. First thing is if my chat message contains C was true, then I'm going to only back up that particular switch. Or if I don't give anything, just only the backup, then I'm going to back up the entire leaves, all the leaves in the entire switch. So basically for different actually keywords, you can take different actions as well. So here, yeah, basically running the backup is standard. So I'm just going to collect the configs and then create it into a folder in this case. Okay, let's try it. Okay, so here we go. So I'll say backup. So I got that message was triggered, a webhook was triggered. I got this entire thing, and I can see my basically my text is actually it's showing me as backup, right? This text here, backup. Now, if you see this actually backed up my configuration, all my leaves, because I just said backup. So there was two leaves in my two switch, so it's actually configured, backed up all the both the switches. Okay, so this is one of the ChatOps kind of a thing. But this particular command I was referring to can be of anything, right? It's not just actually backing up. It can be taking, it can be doing like say communicating with your service now, right? So you want to kind of interact with your service tickets and everything. You can also do that as well. Okay. The last use case I want to talk about, service ticket enrichment. I did highlight in the other use case as well, we do that, like say getting BGP neighbor summary and the node pings and showing it, but you can also do other stuff as well. So in this example, I'm going to show here is that, again, this is very specific to network. So network, you have routes, right? So basically I have a set of routes which is getting kind of advertised and I'm getting in. If that route count goes down, so this is very critical, right? So if something goes in, that means something went wrong. Then I'm checking that event, saying that whether if the route count actually is differing to what I expect, then I need to take an action. So basically, it's going to kind of go and create a service ticket, and it is going to kind of update with some troubleshooting information, like say getting some of the information about the versions and about actually other like what are the missing routes. So this is taking the NetOps approach and this approach. In NetOps, I define, okay, I need to have 70 routes. These are my 70 routes. But the system actually only shows us 60 routes because of some reason. And these are the 10 routes which is missing. So it's going to kind of give you that information to the engineer pathway. So here, okay, as you can see, this is my rule book. Big one. Very fast. Okay, so here actually I'm seeing route count is less than 70 because I expect 70 counts at least. Then again, I'm just also checking if it's coming from my VRF, which is production. Then I'm going to kind of report this event. So it's very simple rule book here. If you look at my action, which is the playbook, I'm doing the things. What you can see here is that I'm getting my source of truth, saying what should be the actual routes it should be. Then I'm going to compare it and see, okay, what is actually missing? And I'm taking that information, I'm going to kind of post it in my service ticket. So this is my playbook, which I have. So of course, this is all like about like you getting additional information, what you want to kind of provide it to the engineer. So, okay, I have 70. This is my actually sunny day scenario. Basically, I have everything working fine. Now, what happens if something goes wrong? I'm running my rule book. Okay, something went wrong, and like say somebody shared something, then my route count went to 60. Okay, so now this particular thing will trigger my event, EDA. Now, EDA is going to trigger my playbook. So this playbook is actually going and getting additional information, getting this, what should be the actual 70 routes and what is actually there, and then the difference of it. And then it is going to kind of create a service ticket in my ServiceNow. And then, okay, look at it. Sorry, if, again, the fonts are small. So basically it created the service ticket. It also added this missing routes, and it also added server versions, basically additional information for the engineer to look at it. And this is similar to in any other automation as well. You can use it, not just like route, but in your case, if something happens, but you want to create a ticket and you want to get additional information, you can do that as well. Okay, so here's my just the difference. So it actually shows you the diff of that. What should be what? It's like these are minus, basically it's missing stuff. Okay. Okay, so let me stop here. I think I showed a lot of different use cases using EDA. I want to hear from you. What do you guys think? And do you think this is something which is useful for you or your customers? Do you think there is actually some use case where you want to see that which kind of might be, I would say, like more useful or impactful? I want to hear from you guys. Any thoughts? Any comments, feedback? Anything is fine.
I could actually see that, for instance, to automate. In my case, that would be onboarding, completely separate from network, but onboarding employees. So the HR team has their own system. We plug that system to Ansible, and then we onboard the employee to whatever system. Even it can be, I don't know, a username in Cisco or whatever.
So as long as the event comes in, where in your case actually was an onboarding event, then we can actually take it and we can take action.
The afterthought about that is what are the security considerations? I mean, I think the listener is anywhere where Ansible Rulebook can run. If you have the CLI, it can run. So what are the security considerations around that? Maybe somebody will try to blast events, so you fill your queue. Maybe somebody will try to pollute parameters. So the event can be found in a YAML. Maybe the parameter can be a YAML user, stuff like that, right? Correct. Or anybody in the network can try to access that, not from the trusted source.
Yeah, I think that's a good question, right? So there are different mechanisms to address it. Okay, of course, like security is like multi-layered approach. The layered approach is, of course, from the infrastructure. It's like we kind of allow only for a specific actually kind of source to come in. That's one. The second is actually, even if you look at some of the other plugins, right? Webhook has got a token application. So the source actually, when it sends, it needs to kind of have the pre-shared key. Only then actually it accepts. Otherwise, it won't accept it. For example,
It does use TLS.
Yeah, you can HTTPS, you can use HTTPS basically. It can be for the webhook, actually, it can be for other scenarios, it can be other mechanisms as well. So those securities can be also included, right?
Yeah.
And then the third is, of course, within the rules, I can actually also manage it, like say drop anything if there is actually not meeting a specific criteria. For example, I don't want to kind of look at it. So you can actually also create some stuff as well. So of course, it's multi-layered. In different layers, we will have to apply different levels of security.
The rule book which we are writing, right? So once the rule book is created, it will be following the source, right?
No, it will not be. So here we are. So it depends on actually what type of event source and the plugin is. For example, webhook or the Kafka is right. So it's like event based. It's not polling basically. So it's event based. So webhook is it's waiting for the event. Webhook it gets called. Kafka is basically listening for the messages on the Kafka bus, basically, right? Kafka topic. So,
but again, in your rule book, it's a kind of outward to the source, right? Like with that Kafka and the port number. So it's not going up, it's not going from the
okay.
controller.
So yeah, if you look at the EDA, the Kafka plugin, the source plugin, it is basically kind of outward. It's listening to outside, right? It's listening to your topic.
I mean, from the controller
From your EDA controller, EDA basically EDA system, it is actually kind of looking for Kafka, and then you are kind of listening to that Kafka.
So it's like one time, if the hit is over there, means it will be all the time. I mean, like once I create the rule book and once I set up the traffic or whatever, then it will be all the time listening on it.
It's listening, yes. Basically, for again. Depends on different source plugin, but in this scenario, yes, it will be listening.
So if I'm having I can have 100 events or 1,000 events, right? So each event will be a rule book.
No, when you say 1,000 events, 1,000 different 1,000 types of events
Exactly.
you're referring to?
For example, website is down, one kind of event. Second one, we would like maybe my one log or whatever is filled or something like that. So like that, if I'm having 1,000 events, then I need types of event. Then I need to have 1,000 rule books, right?
No need. So that's why I said like. So think of it like that. Like say I can have one rule set in my rule book, and I can have many rules. So my listener is one, right? So it's going to come from one listener. So in your case, observability tool. Okay, so I'm listening from that. Then I can have many rules. So I can have the one rule is to kind of to do like say file system full related. Then I have another rule kind of listen or probably kind of to filter for a specific other event. So I can have many rules within a single kind of rule set.
So it be running parallelly or sequentially?
You can define it. So there's an execution strategy you can define. So
Looks like you mentioned, right? If there are 1,000 events coming, okay. So one check is already over. Then again, it has to wait for the next iteration, right?
yeah, so that's why. So there is an execution strategy which you can define in your rule book. So there is a parallel execution. There is a kind of a serial execution. So you can define that how we want to kind of define it.
Is there a limit on parallel execution? Like,
I would say the limit probably would be in your resources. So obviously, this is actually has to run. So that's why I kind of pointed out earlier as well. The point of this is not like getting bombarded with alerts. It's about actionable events which you take. Like for example, Dynatrace or other systems which can actually provide an alert for specific thing which actually needs some curated event which needs action. Like in your case, like it's not actually getting all like file system errors. It's gonna kind of get an event when there is a file system book. Okay, so that's the way approach we are taking it. But we can take multiple. So there is basically you can get multiple messages and events you can get it. The limit probably would be your resources. Obviously, it comes back to physics, right? So it comes back to like how much resources you have got to kind of
like number of rules or trade like we didn't on that one.
no. Okay, so there are two pieces to it. Act portion is actually happening separately. The playbook runs, which is going to be in, like say if you're using controller or something, it's a separate one. But for the rulebook, it's a separate one. So this is about listening. So the rulebooks acts as only this. It listens for the event, looks for like your rule engine, looks at the rule engine, finds something, trigger an action. So that's what it does. Actual action is run at your playbook, which is or in your template or in your controller. It's separate. So it's two pieces, I would say.
And like the way NAP2, you're having that one level of approval, right? Same like that. Can we have any kind of? Why I'm asking is like consider a scenario where I'm having a schedule down, right, for any kind of websites or whatever. So I just shut down the the website, and all of a sudden the EDA will start triggering, right? So
you can actually, so basically that's why I said, right? So EDA job gets an event, triggers an action. So the job template which you're creating or your workflow we are actually going to call, the workflow you can actually have, if you want to in the workflow, if you want to just put a, say, approval or a stop there, you can actually put it there.
oh, you can.
Yeah, you can. Or you can actually also, you can make it more kind of intelligent as well. In your playbook, in your job template, you can say first go and check if it's in the maintenance window. If it's a maintenance window, don't do anything, for example. So you can actually add additional stuff. Any other questions?
Sure. Yes.
Just want to show you that from a network point of view, you see this the gray ones here. So this is about like NetOps or the NetOps workflow, where you are actually kind of using it to kind of have your network configuration and such. This is something which we can do. Now what we are extending is the other side. So where we are gonna kind of take action, event occurs from the source event goes in, my rule decision actually happens, and then I go and take an action over here, and I'll actually go and configure or do something on my network itself. We are actually kind of with the help of EDA, we are actually kind of able to do this as well. So I would say it's a complete solution, automation solution for the network. And the similar thing can be applied in the other like IT infrastructure automation as well. So I'm just showing in the network world, but actually it can be as well. Like say today you can do GitOps, right? With this EDA, you can actually also this EDA workflow for like any server related issues or like the storage or whatever other network information.
So I understand though, so we have the we will get the 1,000 a lot of 1,000 event notification at this time. We need to configure the which alert notification where run the which notebook. At this time we need to make a lot of notification types. At this time, how can we manage for it? So we got maybe so in the rotation or staging server, so we get a lot of notification. At this time, which notification is the where we need to take the action. Which notification is just notifying. We don't need to take any action. But so when we define the notification, so we will have a lot of notification types. So at this time, we need to write a lot of rules. So how can we write this as a simplified? Yeah.
So
like this, the best practice or something like that.
So yeah, so basically the approach here is that rulebook is simple enough for you to kind of maintain. But the point you were mentioning is very valid, right? So I can have like say different environments and different environments. I need to take different actions, right? The same event, but for the SIT, I want to take a different action. For the production, I want to take a different action. So there are different actually mechanisms you can actually select. Even I want to run it as different rule books based on that depends. That's going to be dependent on your source. Whether the source is going to be able to kind of differentiate and do it. Like for example, I can put it into different topics. Then I can then pick it based on different topics, and I can actually do different actions or different rule book basically. Yeah. Or if I get it in one single one, then I would need to kind of I say, okay, fine, it just comes in. Then I need to have within my rule book. Of course, I need to define like if it's dev, basically I need to be able to identify based on my event. If it's dev, then I kind of run a specific actually rules conditions. If it is production, then I need to. But yes, you need to define this. So that's why I said like the additional check within rulebook is required or not depends on the source. If I can actually differentiate my source or the incoming event source, the location, then I can do it at that level. Then I can have different rulebooks. I can do it. But if I have one, then I may have to have different rule sets or different actually rules.
So at this time, so we got the alert. The alert is same, but the environment is different. So at this time, so the issue maybe may not be the same, right? So even we got the same notification, but the actual issue resolution will not be the same. So at this time, how can we clarify for it?
So Yeah, so the two things actually you can do with it. So for example, in my rule, right, condition. So in my condition, when I'm defining it, I can say event dot, I would say that environment, okay, dot is equal to kind of say as a start. Then I say action probably is run a different thing, for example, or like say only notified, for example. If it's actually basically my dev, then I want to kind of do certain remediation. Action would be remediation. So I can define these conditions and I can define different actions as well. So this is something actually I can do to the other option I was saying is if I can actually it's like say the event from my production is coming in a different topic. This is my production topic. This is my dev topic. Okay. Then what I do is this will go into a different rulebook. This rulebook is basically production rulebook. So then I don't have to do this condition. So I can have multiple conditions, right? So this is production, and I also say event dot like say type is basically you whatever type you want to select. So in this case, this condition, what happens is I don't need this condition here. I only need this condition because I already get only production events here.
Yeah.
So there are two ways actually you can actually define what you want to do depending upon different types of environments.
We just add the condition statement.
Of course, you need to, yeah. So yeah, that's why if I can't differentiate this thing at the source level, then I have to define it in my condition. If I can actually define it at the source level, I can differentiate it, then obviously I don't need the additional condition to be done in my rulebook. I can have two different rulebooks for different sources, which for different environments.
Yeah, at this time that we can only add the one condition for each rule, right?
You can have many conditions.
Oh,
There can be like say you can actually have conditions. If you go basically there's a lot of actually things which you can do. So if you go there, have like say something called conditions all, there is a lot of other things which you can do. There's a lot of things in the document. Of course, we couldn't actually cover everything, but if you go through the document, it has a lot of things which you can do. Yeah.
yes, right. Yeah, thank you.
I wanted to ask you about high availability. If you want the playbook to be running at all time, of course we'll have several listener, maybe a load balancer in front of it. But then how do we know the health of a listener? Or how do we deduplicate an event? So if we have a load balancer, we have an event here, but we don't want to do it again for the next one. This kind of consideration.
So you're saying you are getting it via the load balancer, or
So
you
I'm
are
saying
putting a load
broader-
balancer on.
We are
Let's
asking
broaden the
your
pitch.
Okay.
Ansible rule high availability strategy.
Right.
You don't
So
want to
Worker in Kubernetes.
correct. So basically, if you look at it, if you use, I was talking about the EDA controller and this thing.
Yeah.
So basically, this rulebook runs as a container. Okay, so just showing you here. So this is my EDA controller. So of course, whatever I showed you was the CLI, but you can actually do. You kind of log in. So this is my EDA controller. So if you see, I have like say same like controller, like AAP controllers, I have projects. So this project is going to have my rule books. So there was a question you were asking, right? It's all going to be in the Git only.
So it's not with the app, it's not in the app.
No, so everything actually you're storing is in the Git, and we fetch it from the Git, and then I have a rulebook activation. So when I create the rulebook, it's same like creating a template in controller, AAP controller. So I give my project, then I can pick which rulebook I want to run. Then this is decision environment. So this decision environment is my container image, basically. So I select, and then I also set restart policy. Like say if something fails, this is because it's a container, right? I can define my policy. Like I want to like say when it fails, actually I want to kind of restart it, right? So you can actually define this. Now, because it's actually based on containers, it's much easier. And we are also getting this EDA controller HA, which is coming in the future, actually in the roadmap, which is we are getting it. So it's easier for us to kind of define it because this one is actually everything is in a container. So it's easier for us to kind of manage the view.
So you run your container, okay, let's say, for instance, Kubernetes behind a load balancer.
Yeah, so everything actually runs here. And yeah, right now, actually, the HA of the controller is not yet there, and it's in the roadmap. But when we get it, actually, it'll be, yeah, cheers.
And then it will duplicate even, for instance, the rule that you have for only once per 5 minutes.
No, it's not
The
like
different container will have the same event at that time and time plus 5 seconds, the second one should not start the playbook again, right? Because there is a
Oh,
time
okay.
limit.
I'm not sure you will have, okay, having actually two different parallel containers running and listening as a rulebook. Two different instances of the same rulebook running and actually listening to this. I'm not sure it will run that way. But I don't know how they are setting it up in the HA design.
I guess right now the HA is not really ready at this point.
Ready,
in
so
time.
I don't know how they are going to
So
run it. Yeah, how
What's
they're
going
gonna-
on is that we can have a container instance just like what Meetup is mentioning. It will test all those things. And if it is running as a, we have an operator running on the OpenShift. So that will automatically recover itself if it goes down. So that is, at this point in time, the resiliency.
Because that's why I probably
But I
say
get where
even
you are coming from. If you have these things that's trying to load
trying to do load balance into multiple containers, then obviously we need to look at
you
the
need to know
conditions and like
which one is happening.
I would
locking it.
expect like a
Right, that
database
will
or a
be-
cache or like something in the middle.
Correct,
for
yeah.
everybody.
We need to set
It
that
could
up.
even be maybe another queue that's inside. It depends on who is picking
Who is
up.
picking up and all, yeah,
Right, and then
basically,
the
yes.
particular container will handle it. But right now, at this point in time, this is not really ready. So we're just,
The HA is not especially-
because this is the first release, right? So AAP 2.4 is just GA. So we are trying to improve it along.
Supposed to be on Friday, but I rescheduled. Question. Yes, for the rules, right? Is there a tool that does a soundness check? If what if there are conflicting rules, like if a rule that checks if the port is down, bring it up. Another rule that checks if the port is up, bring it down. For example. So if there's such a rules being set, how will is there a way to catch such?
Today, it's up to us how we define it. Obviously, the system is going to run through the rules based on what you have defined. So it's going to kind of pick it up and say, okay, if you're saying that down, then it's going to kind of run that action and it's going to run. Then so that again depends on how I define my execution strategy. If the execution strategy is serial, then it's going to pick up the first one, then it's going to run that. Then if it's the second one, then it's going to run the second one. So it's going to kind of run. Today, there is no, I would say, because it's very hard as well, right? Because it depends on a lot of different logic. Because in certain condition, certain scenario, it might be logical that you need to have it in that way. In certain scenarios, it probably doesn't make sense. So the system
It will be a bit
hardly
similar to how you do Ansible today. Right? So
Yeah.
you can always write something that is not
that can break
logical
or that can
within the playbook. So what you have is that we do things like unit testing. We have Ansible molecule where you try to test the whole thing. So the same logic
Correct.
will apply over here. Right? So this is not like independent of what is you're already doing.
Sure.
So we can't always stop people from doing strange things, but we try to catch it during the test and the development phase.
But those YAML testing or molecule tests, will they catch conflicting rules?
You will kind of need to see the
It
behavior.
depends. It's test case, right?
Yeah,
When you're
it's based on
defining
test
test case,
case
if you're
that
going to
you define.
define saying that you're going to kind of have these two events, then obviously your testing will fail.
Then
in
it's not
that
going to
scenario.
work the way that
Yes.
you expect it to be
Correct.
if you have something that's conflicting. Yeah.
Thanks.
So let me quickly go back and show the next steps and then. Yeah, okay, so you can start today. So EDA is available. So you want community version using pip, you can install and then you can start actually running your rulebooks. If you're actually in AAP, if you're in AAP 2.4, it's much simpler. You just write your setup and then it's actually creates a EDA controller. It requires additional VM, but then it's all done set up by the installer itself. So
You need to pass some parameters in INF file,
yes, inventory file. So in the inventory file, there is an additional section in the 2.4 for the EDA. So you define your EDA host and then EDA details, then automatically the system will.
EDA can be part of same controller.
Today, control?
Same like hub and automation controller cannot be at the same.
Same. It's a new. That's why I said it's a separate VM today.
Oh,
So
separate.
we need another separate VM for EDA.
Do you have the Kubernetes manifest that we can just deploy it on Kubernetes or Docker image that we can use?
For this,
We can tell them about the container AAP. That could be something that.
correct. So that's something actually we are. It's now in tech preview, I would say.
Oh,
So we have something which actually does that. So we have actually announced AAP installation as containers.
Correct.
So all the services actually runs as a container. That's something actually is an option which you can actually.
It will run on top of Podman.
Podman.
In that case,
Basically,
you will
yeah,
just
it's not Kubernetes. So of
three
course, we can
containers of
deploy
Podman.
with the operators with OpenShift today, right? But this is
Not
actually
Docker, right?
Podman containers. Podman containers. So this is actually another
You
option.
will help to reduce the footprint. Right now, it's a tech preview.
It's a tech preview, so it's just got actually we got email yesterday.
Yeah.
So it's a tech preview, but I'm actually running it, so it's okay. You can try it. So I've been running it for like a month or so.
This automation platform you download straight from Red Hat network.
Yeah, this is Red Hat actually. Right?
Yeah.
Red Hat solution. So
Okay.
if
So
you're,
your
if you're
setup
already
is
using the
different.
Ansible automation, if you're already using AAP, then it's easier. Like you can just add additional VM and just.
So your setup actually consists of those things as well.
Yeah, it already includes. So this EDA when it sets up, it's set up everything for you. So the controller, the UI and all I was showing, everything is actually set up by the installer.
Uses Ansible playbook to install the controller.
Basically, the setup process is calling Ansible.
Yeah.
Ansible playbook to install Ansible automation platform.
All right. So as mentioned, you need three right now, right? So the hub, the EDA controller, and the AAP controller. And then most likely you have external database, Postgres, that everyone can share.
So right now that we cannot integrate with OpenShift platform.
If you're running an OpenShift, then it's going to be an operator.
Operator.
The operator will just set up everything for you as pods running within the namespace for Ansible platform.
So yeah, so your question on if you are running AAP on OpenShift, you can do it. That's what you can run it as well.
Oh, okay.
It will just work.
It will work. It will work.
There's an operator in the operator hub. You can just select and it will just deploy for you.
Oh,
You do not need virtual machines.
okay.
Yeah.
But I won't be able to segregate with a network level. It's like few VLANs, the execution nodes need to be connected to few VLANs. Like second execution node need to be connected. I can't achieve that one if I go with OpenShift, right?
That's the automation mesh, but
But yeah,
right now it's not.
in the open so there are two ways, right? So one, if I'm just running my E's basically as a container. Basically what happens in the E node is that it whenever the job comes, it runs a container, right? So in the OpenShift scenario, it just basically create the instance of that particular job itself and then it runs it. So there's no E itself in that in the OpenShift scenario. But there is also another thing where this is again not there yet. This is something which might come up in the future, is to have an outside execution node where actually your controller and everything runs on OpenShift, but then the actual job actually runs on a VM on an E node separate outside. This is an external execution node is something which we are looking at. It's not there yet.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not there yet.
What you can do, let's say, right, if you have things like EKS, AKS, or another OpenShift cluster, you can still use the API endpoint on port 644. To go and
That's
set
a
up.
good option.
So that is a container group. That's what we call it AAP. And so
So
that kind of stuff is possible.
yeah, that's like kind of you run a simple like microscript or some Kubernetes, or like I can run and I can actually run the containers on that. as
Because
well.
all that it does is that it spins up a execution environment, right? Which basically it's just a container pod. So it runs a playbook and then it queues off itself. So it's just landing the resource of another cluster. Yeah. And there can be some other networks, as long as there's network L3, layer 3. Yeah.
Yeah, there are actually also interactive labs. Basically, you can just go in and then sign in. There is EDA related. There are a few labs, interactive labs. You don't have to install anything. You just want to try it out. You can still do it with the labs. So there are a few because we have a lot of videos and then the documents which I just showed you as well. You can refer to it.
So you can do the
Okay, no questions. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time. I know it's late. Thanks for staying up.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you.
For the Thunderbird.
This you can do it on